Okay, so our book for this week, it's this one of the other children's books I've got. We've seen a book a bit like this before. This is Perfectly Norman by Tom Percival. I'll show it a little bit closer so you can see something that's not so normal about Norman. You can see his cheeky facial expression there. You may remember that we read Ruby's Worry once, which is another book by Tom Percival. Here we have it, Perfectly Norman. I want you to think by the end of this what might be a moral for this story or a message which Tom Percival is trying to get to you by telling this story. Alright then. So we have Norman running with some friends there, the only one in colour, on our title page. Alright. So Norman had always been normal, perfectly normal, until one day he grew a pair of wings. Look at those, they're beautiful. Look how surprised his dog is. Look how surprised that rabbit is. A lot going on in these pictures. Norman had imagined growing taller, or growing a beard maybe like his dad one day, but he had never imagined that he would grow a pair of wings as he got older. Still, they were here now, and he decided to test them out right away. There he is, having his first flight with the wings. Soon Norman was swooping around and generally having the most fun ever. But then he had to go in for dinner. You see, Norman had always been so normal, he didn't know how his parents would feel about his extraordinary wings. Dinner! He's worried about what his parents are going to think of him now that they realise they've got a son with a massive pair of wings. As he went in, Norman covered himself up in a great big coat. His parents didn't notice the wings, but they did think it was odd to be wearing a coat indoors. Bath time was problematic. There he is, in his coat in the bath. So was bedtime. And the coat was hot and uncomfortable, but Norman had decided that no one should see his wings ever. What's he worried about? Is he worried that people won't accept him when they find out that he's got wings? The next day, Norman went to the park, but he was far too hot to play any of his favourite games. And so it went on. Long car journeys were unbearable. The swimming pool was dreadful, and that was nothing compared to his friend's birthday party. You can see the dog not having any fun with Norman here now either. No one's asking him what's wrong in that picture. Interesting. The only time that Norman could feel normal now was when it rained. Now I can see his parents here are actually starting to get a bit worried for him. They don't know what's going on. Now one day, a boy tried to pull his coat off, and Norman had to run away, hot-faced, angry, and sad. Although, a bit of good news there. It looks like the dog has managed to stop this bully from ripping off his coat. He wished he'd never grown those stupid wings. Then he saw some birds high up in the sky, and he remembered the joy of his first flight. It occurred to Norman that it was the coat that was actually making him miserable and not the wings. "Why don't you take that tatty old thing off?" suggested his mum and dad. Norman looked up at them hesitantly. Still not sure. He's hesitating, waiting whether he should actually show them this. His parents smiled and nodded. Norman smiled back. So now that his parents have shown it's okay, he's ready to take a risk. Then he threw off the coat and he let his wonderful wings fan out. Norman leapt into the air. Finally, he was free of that coat. He noticed a few other children wearing thick, heavy coats of their own. They looked up at Norman and rounded each other nervously. Why do you think they're all wearing coats? There was a moment's pause, and then... the sky was filled with flying people. Norman had never felt so happy. And he realized that there was no such thing as perfectly normal. But he was perfectly Norman. And that was just as it should be. Alright then, thank you for listening for our story this week. In the comments section, Dojo points for people who can explain what they think the message of Tom Percival's book is there. Hope you enjoyed that one, and speak to you guys soon. Goodbye.